Now we want to make this application a real-time application, and I mean by that, when I send this and I send any message, it appears immediately in my screen and to the other person's screen, the one I'm sending the message to. So it looks like a real-time message, but it only appears for me. Okay, if I open up a new tab, that means a new user, and go to the localhost 3000 and do a quick test. If I send a message from this component, from this page, from this user, okay, it will appear here, not in the other user's screen. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna build this thing to be a real time. When a user sends a message to the other one, it will appear immediately to the other one's screen. Okay, so let me walk you through the code. So the first thing, it is a basic Next.js app. Contains the source folder contains 3 different folders: the app, the components, and the lib. Inside the app we have the layout. I did not do anything here, which is a pre-built file with Next. Okay, so let's go to the page, which is the home page, and this home page returns a conversation component. Now the first thing you noticed, that this component marked as a use client component. So this is a client component because it uses some states, some event, some click events, some needs to be inside a client component. Okay, so we have these 2 states: the messages state, where our real-time messages will be stored, and the message, which is basically represent the message you want to send, and this send messages handler. Okay, so this is basically the structure, the UI you are seeing here. Okay, perfect. So the first thing that you need to do is go to your browser and search for pusher.com. Sign in to this, sign in, and your screen will be slightly different from mine, but don't worry, maybe you will see this get started instead of manage like me, because I already have these applications. Okay, so hit get started or manage and create a new app and give it a name. Check this, create apps for multiple environment, and optionally, if you want to choose what language or framework you are using in your front end and back end, it is optional. I'm not gonna do this. Okay, I'm not going to create a new app because I already did, and I call it chat-app-youtube. I'm gonna go into this app and I will go to the app keys tab to get my keys, which Pusher needs to get things done, to get things real time. Okay, so I'm gonna move to the root directory and create a file called .env or .env.local. So this file, for the environment variables, these values, basically the same things here. Okay, so let me explain you a bit what next public flag means. Okay, so we have, this is the variable name. Okay, these are the variable name. So as you noticed, some of them have the next public flag before the variable name and some of them not, like the secret key. So what the next public actually do? The next public makes this app or the value of the, not this app, this variable or the value of this variable accessible within server components and client components. The same goes for this publishable key and the cluster. So I have no problem if this, of the value of this variable is accessible within a client component or a server component. If you did not put this next public before the app name, before the variable name, that means this variable will only be accessible within a server component, like the secret key. So in this case, it is a secret key. I know I'm sharing it with you because after the video I'm gonna delete the whole app, so these keys won't be accessible. Okay, but the idea is it is a secret key, it's a secret value, so I don't want the client components to have access to this particular variable. Okay, that's why I did not add the next public before it. Anyway, now the second step is to go to your source component, to your lib folder, and add a new file, call it pusher.ts. And now in order to accomplish this real-time feature, you need two packages. The first one is npm install the first package called Pusher, which is for the server, and the second one is Pusher-js, and hit enter to install. That's perfect. Okay, now let's go back to this file pusher.js and import these two. Now the server one, I'm gonna call it Pusher server from Pusher, and the client one, I'm gonna call it Pusher, import, come on, import Pusher from Pusher-js. There you go, perfect. Now I'm gonna create two variable, this one export const Pusher server new Pusher server, and I'm gonna pass a empty object for now. Okay, I'm using Copilot. It helps me a lot with coding, whatever. So I need to pass in the app ID, and the value is stored in the environment variables, and you have to make sure that you were calling or accessing the exact variable name. Okay, now in order to access to any variable inside your env file, you need to type with me process.env. Now you are inside this env file. Now just you need to type in the name of the environment variable. That's perfect. Now I don't know why type string or undefined. Oh, okay, so TypeScript is complaining that this environment variable could be undefined, and I'm gonna tell TypeScript with this exclamation mark that no, this variable will not be undefined ever. So now I need to pass in the key, which is the publishable key process.env and this variable. Okay, and I'm gonna duplicate these lines. Now the secret key, and I call it Pusher secret key. Okay, so I need to add the exclamation mark in the end of each line. Perfect. Now the secret, and the last thing is the cluster. Now process and the cluster, and perfect. Now the server, the Pusher server is set up. Now let's export const the Pusher client, the one we're gonna use inside a client component, new pusher, and I need to pass in the publishable key for this one and the cluster. That's it. That this class need, or this class. Okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna pass in a new object and the cluster. Perfect. This auth endpoint, we don't need this. Now, perfect. Now we finished setting up pusher on the client and the server. Okay. Now, and Next.js, which is a full stack framework, so let me explain to you what Pusher going to do. Pusher have a server and a client. You have a server and a client. You have to trigger a WebSocket event from your server and receive that event and do whatever you want with it, and a client component. So I need to trigger an event from my server, from my backend, and in Next.js, which is a full stack framework, the backend and front end are two included in the same place. So I'm gonna use the Next.js feature, which is actions, server actions. I'm gonna create a new folder called actions, and within this folder I'm going to create a new file called message.action.ts. okay, and the first thing I need to do is to mark this as a server component. So use server, not user, use server, to tell Next.js, hey, this is a server action. Okay, and I'm gonna export a function called sendMessage, and this function, it is a synchronous function, a synchronous function. It take a message of type string, and let's do whatever we like here. I'm gonna open up a try catch in order to catch any error, and I'm gonna throw it out. Okay. Now, the first thing you might do is, for example, you could do whatever you want here. But the first thing, maybe, and usually, you're gonna store the message inside your database. Okay? We're not going to do this because this is a small tutorial to show you how to achieve implementing real-time feature. Okay? But you could store your message in your database. Now, the second step is to trigger a WebSocket event. And how to do that is by calling the pusher server and call the method inside it called trigger. And trigger take 3 params as you read: channel, or a list of channels, an event, and the data. Okay, so the channel, in this case, I'm gonna call it chat-app. Okay, call it whatever you want. Okay, now the second thing is the event name. I'm gonna call it, also you call it whatever you want, I'm gonna call it an upcoming message. And the last thing you need to pass is the data. The data, in order when you listen to this specific event inside this specific chat, you get that data immediately, in real time, and do whatever you want with. So I'm gonna pass a object contain the message passed in through this server actions, this function. Okay, so that's it. That's what you need to do. This is the first step. 1. Okay, this is the first step. Now the second step, let's go to the component, which is the conversation component. Okay, the conversation component, and I need to tell this component, hey, when you first mount, I want you to start listening to any WebSockets event can happen. Okay, so how to tell you this? How to tell this component this? Using use effect hook. Use effect hook. I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna tell it and I'm gonna set the dependency array an empty one, and that means when he first mounts, and he will keep listening to the events. Okay, just once. I want the functions inside this use effect. Okay, inside this use effect to be called only once, and it will keep listening. Okay, now the second step is to subscribe to this channel you triggered. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna use Pusher client now because I am inside a client component, and I set up a Pusher client and a Pusher server. Okay, now Pusher client dot subscribe, and I have to pass in. Okay, sorry, I have to pass in the same channel name. Just make sure. Okay, now this is the second step. The third step, which is the last one, is to bind that to bind an event from that channel with the Pusher client again. Pusher client dot bind, and I have to what WebSocket event I want to bind. Bind means get the data, extract the data from the event. Okay, so I want the upcoming event. Okay, upcoming message event. Okay, and I am sure, and I have to pass in a function, and this function will get the data. Okay, so the type of this data, I am 100% sure that this data is going to be of type an object contain a message of type string. Okay, so let me just this message. And how do I know this? Because in my backend, in my server action, I passed in as a data this object contained the message, and the message is of type string. Perfect. Now the first thing I need to do just to console log a message called real-time message. Real-time message. هاي به هذا برا واحدة data.message. Perfect. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's test this out. So in this component, this tab, I'm gonna open up console, and let me see. I'm gonna type this and pass it. Well, it appears that something wrong actually happened. Why am listening to the same chat app upcoming? Let me make sure that I am binding the same webhook event, WebSocket event. Okay, so what's going on here? Let me make sure that I'm the send message. What a stupid mistake I made. Okay, because I did not call this server action, so the event will never be triggered. Okay, so I'm gonna call this await the send message. Okay, the send message. I need to import this from my actions, and perfect. So I hopefully we're gonna see something on a console, that real-time message and the data. Perfect. So the real-time MSG and the message I passed in. Perfect. It looks like everything works as expected. So what I need to do is to, instead of console log, I need to set the messages state. I'm gonna call the previous and I return an array, and I will spread the previous array and pass in the data.message, because the messages state is a array of strings. Okay, now in this way, and just lastly, I'm gonna unsubscribe. I'm gonna return a cleanup function called inside this use effect, and I want this, when this component just unmounts dead, I'm gonna unsubscribe to that channel. Okay, so using pusher client.unsubscribe, and then I will unsubscribe from the chat app channel, and that's perfect. And I need also to set the message. So I need to set the message back to empty. And let's test this immediately with both screens in both users. So just think about this: two separate users inside the same conversation. I want to connect each other, okay? Or contact. Hey, how are you doing? But it's not working. I don't know why. Set messages to the previous one. And what's happening? What's actually happening? Let's console log again. The data, just the data. The data and the data. Okay, so what is going on? Okay, so let's go to the console and send any message. Now it works. Oh my god. By adding this console log, it works. Whatever. So, and I have another issue. Why I have the same message twice? Whatever. So, it looks like everything works as expected, but just this small bug. I don't know why. I actually don't know, but I think about just a solution. I'm gonna use the filter method to filter the only unique messages. So I'm gonna call this unique messages and call the messages dot filter. I'm sorry, messages dot dot filter and what dot filter called messages dot filter. Yes. Okay, and so this Copilot helps me with. So this basically this line returns only the unique messages. Okay, and instead of looping through the messages, I'm gonna loop through the unique messages. And perfect. Okay, let's hit refresh, and for the last test, hey, isn't Pusher great? There you go. You see, the message appears in the one who sent the message immediately, and to the other user's screen immediately also. Yes, it is. Boom. Now you accomplished the real-time feature. Congratulations. For those, I wanna let me know in the comment, for those who are used WebSockets and build real-time applications with WebSockets from scratch. Just tell me, Pusher did not do a great job. It made it so much easy. Okay, so thank you for watching, and see you in next videos.